Boobs. Boobs are pretty great. I think we can all agree. A symbol of nourishment. One of the cornerstones of sex. Even so, it's a topic we haven't really touched on in any of these videos. Sure, we did like one boob video a long time ago, but that one was really non-specific. Facts about boobs, not a very focused experience. That all changes today with what is debatedly the most interesting part of the boob. The nipple.
Look at my nipples. Look at them!
After all, it's what separates a safe for work drawing from a not safe for work drawing. Nipples play a bigger role in sex than what you might think. So strap in and strap on, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're talking about nipples. There are many different types of nipples. Big nipples, small nipples, nipples of every size, shape, and color. If nipples were a 4-year university, we would definitely meet our diversity quota. But if we're talking about actual categories, there are 4 main types. First up are the pointy nipples, also called protruding. About 75% of nipples are classified as pointy. It's what you normally envision when you think of a nipple. It's a small bump about 9 or 10 millimeters off the surface of the breast. For most people with pointy nipples, the actual nubbins part is always raised above the areola, which is the darker ring around the nipple. These protrusions can extend out even further in response to colder environments and stimulation. There's nothing super interesting or unique about this type. It's kind of the default option. Next are the flat nipples. They're the second most common type, occurring in about 23% of people. Similar to the pointy ones, they will always remain in their default state no matter the circumstance. Well, I shouldn't say always. Some individuals, flat nipples might become more erect with cold temperatures and arousal. People with flat nipples may experience some difficulty while breastfeeding, but this issue can be alleviated if you gently pull on the area. Rolling it between your fingers. This might engorge it with blood, making it stand out so the baby can latch onto it. You can also try using a breast pump. Inverted nipples are where things start to get really interesting, to me at least. They're pretty much exactly what they sound like. They're inverted, dipping below the skin rather than rising above it. Milk ducts become shortened, pulling the nipple tissue inward. But they're not stuck like this. Some people can flip theirs around the other way when stimulated. It's estimated that roughly 2% of people are born with inverted nipples. Nipples can also become inverted through rapid weight loss, aging, and even breastfeeding. A while ago, I proposed the question of why characters in Rule 34 are so often depicted with inverted nipples. Well, consider this. Inverted nipples are often features on breasts that are on the larger side, right? I believe this, in combination with breastfeeding as a common cause for inversion, can explain this phenomenon. We're used to seeing inverted nipples on nursing mothers. That display of fertility often carries over into Rule 34. We depict characters as sexualized and fertile by displaying inverted nipples, a common sign of fertility. If you've been counting, we've already reached 100%. Well, we're sort of cheating with the 4th type. Unclassified nipples are the ones that don't fit well into any category. Maybe there are unilateral variations, meaning one nipple is different from the other. One might be pointy, one might be flat. Milk ducts aren't always constructed the same, meaning their appearances might differ like this. However, if you have unilateral variations, you should get checked. These kinds of changes can be an early sign of breast cancer. Those are the main types, but there are other conditions. An extra nipple is called a supernumerary nipple. Also referred to as polythea, this nipple can appear anywhere on the milk line, which starts at each armpit, runs through the standard nipple area, all the way down to the groin. There's one case of a nipple appearing on someone's foot. Burger King foot nipple. You can also have bifurcated nipples. Bifurcated nipples are extra nipples that are contained within the areola. It would essentially sit right next to the main one. This can happen on one side or both. Now, the complete absence of a nipple is called athelia. Most of the time, this occurs on both breasts, but has been known to be unilateral as well. What I really want to communicate with this video is it's important to understand that while not all nipples will appear the same, it's best to view your nipples as a unique part of you. Of course, if you have an imperfection, it's good to go to the doctor just to make sure it's just a visual mark and not something serious. But you should own it. Think of it as a quirk. Most of my audience is made up of young men who don't really think about their nipples all that much, but I know there are at least a few women watching who might be insecure about these kinds of things. If you're with somebody who judges you for something as inconsequential as your nipples, they are absolutely not worth staying with. For the boys, avoid making fun of that area. You never know when someone might be self-conscious about that. The size of someone's nipples can also vary wildly. In general, women's nipples tend to be a bit bigger than men's, about 36% bigger. For men, the size is usually pretty uniform, but for women there's a lot more variation. Because in women they're actually functional, and they need to be big enough to facilitate breastfeeding. There are two sex hormones that can influence the size of your nipples: estrogen and progesterone. It's completely natural to have nipples that are extremely large or extremely small. Genetic variation is important in our species, and they will be functional. Not only can they vary in size from birth, they can also change size depending on life stages. During menstruation and pregnancy, it's common for the nipples themselves to increase their size. This is due to its function. A nipple is there to facilitate the flow of milk when breastfeeding, and a baby needs to be able to latch onto it. Those two hormones, estrogen and progesterone, draw fluid into the breasts, making them feel sensitive and tender. Now for color. The color of someone's nipple will range from light pink to dark brown, a range created by differences in genetics and race. The color thing is a common, I don't know, you want to call it meme? Really more of an insult. The whole bubblegum pink thing. That's something that I had to learn about recently, and to guys it just seems kinda silly, but I know some women who take it very seriously. And it's why the whole accept yourself for who you are is so important here. Generally speaking, a lighter skin tone will result in a lighter color, while darker skin tones will give you darker shades. An important feature of this color is that it will usually match the color of the areola. Not unlike size, even nipple color can change during menstruation, pregnancy, and menopause. Even just suntanning. I think it's really interesting how nipples are almost entirely versatile. They can change their shape, size, and color from birth or in random life events. What other part of the body functions like that? If we're talking about texture, nipples are usually pretty soft, but they can become firm and dry as a result of breastfeeding, nipple piercings, and excessive sun exposure. Aging will usually cause the nipples to soften up and sag. It's also extremely common to develop bumps on your nipples. These are caused by glands called Montgomery tubercles, located on both the areola and the nipple itself. These glands swell during pregnancy to lubricate the nipple to prepare for breastfeeding. It's also very typical to have hairs on the nipples as well. Younger adults typically have hairs that are thin and transparent, but these might get thicker and coarser with age. Hairy nipples aren't usually a cause for concern. Usually. You may feel compelled to shave this area, but you have to be careful. It's just like shaving your balls. It's really easy to nick the wrong place and cause an infection. If you want a safer way to get rid of excess hair, waxing is much safer. If you're a guy, your mental image of boobs are probably starting to get a bit more realistic. Learning what boobs actually look like and the imperfections that come with them are important. Pornography will only feature breasts that are perfect. It's extremely rare to find a unilateral variation in mainstream porn. But let me tell you something interesting, and it's something I haven't really gone into yet on my channel, because it's a relatively new development. As I've aged, my tastes have aged with me. When you're young, you seek out the perfect face, body. Maybe you're really attracted to girls who wear a lot of makeup and cover up those imperfections. But as you get older, you might start to become attracted to a more natural look. This could be a mole, eczema, or just other visual differences. Those imperfections can become attractive because they're real. I want to dive into this with a whole video, and who knows, maybe it's just me, but I've become very attracted to those little quirks as I've grown up. That's pretty much the basic information on nipples, but I'm interested in pushing this concept a bit further. When it comes to sex, what else can we learn about the nipple? Surely we've talked about everything there is to talk about, right? Well, let's get into ideal nipple placement. This is something that no sane person would ever really care about, almost to the point of obsession, but who knows, maybe I am obsessed. A 2016 study polled 1,000 women and 1,000 men about where the ideal placement for the nipple was. Call it pin the nip on the boob, I guess. 813 people in total completed the questionnaire, as it was mail-in. Still a pretty good sample size. They concluded that the perfect spot was, quote, in the middle of the breast gland vertically and slightly lateral to the midpoint horizontally.
It's perfect.
This makes sense, as it's how perfect breasts are often depicted. Typically, nipples are placed directly below your earlobes. That's how far apart they are. You can try it right now. Measure with your hands how far apart your earlobes are, then move down to your nipples. They will be exactly the same. Now, if you sleep with a guy and he starts criticizing your nipple placement, run as far away as you can. Naturally, the areola is going to form a ring around the nipple wherever it is. Some areolas are large and some are small. This was one of the things that was very intriguing to me as a youngin'. There is a large variation in size of areolas. For females, the average diameter is 2.5 inches, about the size of a pizza cutter, which is actually a lot bigger than I thought. A general rule of thumb for areola size is 1/3 the width of the overall breast. But again, completely normal to fall outside of that ratio. Larger areolas are typically less sensitive to touch. For men, it's only an inch across, like a quarter. I was under the impression that, like, the quarter size was the average size, but it's really not. It's much bigger. There is a surgical procedure for reducing the size of your areolas, if you want to. It can be part of a boob job, or you can do it separately. The areola procedure by itself can cost around $5,000. Does the nipple play a role in arousal? Yep, it definitely does. Another 2016 study. 310 undergraduate students were asked about nipple stimulation during sexual activity. 81% of women and 51% of men confirmed that stimulation of this area does have a positive effect on arousal. Only 7% said it decreased their arousal, which I guess is good news for all the boob guys out there. Next time you're in the bedroom and you wanna, you can cite your sources, I guess. What about plastic surgery? Does this affect sensitivity? It does, because of tissue damage. Breast augmentations carry the risk of nerve damage, and this can temporarily decrease the amount of sensation in that area. In some people, though, this loss of feeling is permanent, so consult your doctor before going through with this kind of procedure. In fact, nipples can be so sensitive that they induce labor. Labor can be kickstarted by a sudden release of oxytocin, which is produced by nipple stimulation. I wouldn't rely on this in a pinch, though. In the study where this was proven, it took 3 whole days of fondling to release that oxytocin. This kind of stimulus can have an effect on the duration of labor as well. If you stimulate the nipples during labor, this can shorten the first stage by a significant amount. For our test subject, this resulted in a frame-perfect 3.8-hour speedrun. The community calls it an NLJ. What I'm curious about is world records. According to Guinness, in 2013, a person used their nipples to lift 71.87 pounds, or about 11 bricks. I have no earthly idea how to transition to the next fact, so this is all you get. Breastfeeding women can, in fact, spontaneously leak milk if they hear a baby crying. It's called the let down reflex, where the actual breast nerves send signals to release the milk. It's something that's left over from our evolution, where babies were breastfed by pretty much any woman in the tribe who had milk, maybe because the mother was having trouble producing it. It's an instinct. Speaking of breast milk, there's a worldwide demand for it. This is something that really surprised me as a guy. Think about it. Due to the sheer number of variations we've discussed, the variation in the production of breast milk is an expected outcome. Some women just can't produce as much milk as others. Breast milk versus formula is a hotly debated topic, which leads to a lot of panicked mothers desperate to get their hands on natural breast milk. And of course, there's been companies that are all too eager to take their money in an industry that lacks regulation. This is kind of a tangent, stick with me. These are usually for-profit operations, with the price of breast milk approaching, I don't know if this is correct, but this is what my source says. The price can approach $300 for every 100 milliliters, if we're talking about that premium shit, fortified breast milk. That number seems to vary wildly depending on your source of information. Again, this is a market that isn't yet heavily scrutinized. As for the benefits of breast milk versus formula, the results are inconclusive. What is known is the companies naming their brands to sound healthy to apply the false narrative that they know for sure that it's better than the formula, when they really don't. Saddest of all, there are places out there where women are forced to sell their breast milk to pay their bills, leaving their own babies undernourished. The breast milk market is a topic that is way too heavy for this video, but it does deserve some attention. Let's go back to stimulation. We've determined that messing with the nipple can be enough to arouse someone, but just how powerful is it? Can you orgasm just by playing with your nipples? This is the point where this video has limited monetization, because we're getting into actual sex tips. So if you shouldn't be watching, click off now. Orgasming from nipple stimulation is technically feasible thanks to your genital sensory cortex. This part of your brain is responsible for that tingly feeling you get when someone's rubbing on your junk. This applies to vaginal, clitoral, and yes, nipple stimulation. According to my trusted source, many people describe a nipple orgasm as something that sneaks up on you and then explodes out of nowhere. The sensation spread throughout your whole body as the pleasure builds slowly and gradually. Then bam, you'll feel a powerful climax that comes in waves. In fact, a nipple orgasm may feel even more intense during menstruation. Hormonal changes during menstruation can increase breast sensitivity and tenderness, which may heighten arousal. This is so possible, in fact, that even men can experience an orgasm just from their nipples, which makes me want to try. I've never tried that before, but I want to know if it's possible. Now here comes the actual tips. Apparently, what you want to do is build up to this stimulation. Don't just go right in and grab a boob. You need to sneak up on the boob. With your partner's guidance, use your breath, your hot breath, to activate the area around the nipple. A simple fluctuation in temperature, like your breath, will get the ball rolling on this. An introduction of texture also works, like your tongue. Stimulate other areas with your other hand while tracing a circle around the areola. This builds anticipation. Next, move into a gentle massage of the breast. And when that's done, you can go for the nub. I guess that's how you get off from your nipples. I don't know. I think what a lot of people forget about sex is that it's all about anticipation. There's the very obvious edging joke that's right there, but that's really what sex is at the end of the day. It's all edging. Always has been. When it comes to breasts, there is so much variation that you just have to appreciate the differences. There's something to be said about men's versus women's erogenous zones. Women generally have more variation when it comes to size and shape, leading to more competition in the space of surface level dating. You know, picking a date based on how big their boobs are. Guys are actually kind of lucky that pretty much all of us hover within a single inch of each other, while women are more subject to the genetic lottery. So it's probably a good idea to start appreciating your partner for what they have. Big nipples, small nipples, even if you're dating that person with a nipple on their foot. We're all beautiful. Thank you for watching. We've got a Discord server, a Patreon, and a merch store. This is quite the video to make these kinds of plugs. Do you want more nipple content? You may or may not find it on my Redbubble. Nah, probably not. Anyway, thank you for watching. I love you all. Good night.